Speaking of sports, happy Monday morning, gentlemen. Coach Al, The Wiz, Chuck. How was your weekend, guys?
It was great. How was your
How
weekend?
did you handle the adjustment with the beautiful weather in the 70s to this morning? It felt like the Klondike, pretty cold.
You wake up and you are cold, and by noon it's 71 degrees. And then by night you're cold again.
Cold again. Yeah, transposition. Big week for the Wiz, getting married to his
on
bride,
Friday.
Emily.
Friday and Saturday we have the whole thing set up.
It's like the Last Supper, like the Easter Passover. It's Thursday, Al. Thursday bleeds into Friday. In the best of ways, it's not a complaint.
Well, the Last Supper, you wish you were only paying for 12 or
yeah.
13 people.
Yeah.
Oh, I got something to tell you about suppers. And then the big event is Saturday at Bear Creek, Barefoot.
Bear Creek Mountain Resort in Pennsylvania.
And the breakfast Sunday. So it's kind of like the Passover and Easter. But we're all looking forward to it. It's looks like you're going to dodge the rain, knock on wood.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Clear and cold.
Yeah, we'll take it. That's better than rainy.
We'll take clear and cold. So you asked me how my weekend was. I know that the podcasts are not a framework for stories, but a fast story. I go to the cemetery yesterday. I'm really going to chop this story. And I'm talking to you, Coach, and I've got a foot on the brake. The door open, and I'm ready to hop out. I don't realize I've got a foot on the brake. So I hop out of the car, the convertible, and get my canes. For those of you who don't know, I have a bit of a leg problem, so I walk with canes. And there goes the car. There goes the car. And my first thought was, no, call out. You live across the street from the cemetery. My first thought was, I can't catch this on my canes. So the canes I got rid of like 30 feet away from me. Boy, I flicked them. And then I have a Herman Munster, Ava Rose kind of stumbling, bumbling walk. And I have to catch the car with my right hand, which I do, which pulls me up inside, let's call it the open door, that area. And now it's on tar. So it's going to go faster. It's off the grass. And I have one diving leap to hit the emergency brake with my right wrist, which is killing me today. And I hit it the whole time mindful that you don't want to end up under the car on a missed attempt to hit the brake. Or you just let it go and let it gain momentum and crash into the retaining wall, which is about 100 yards downstream. With all of that going on, I hear the roar of a Dodge Ram truck, a very nice gentleman named Mark, who comes, volunteer fireman, who comes blistering up. I hope he doesn't run me over. You should hear the engine of one of those trucks wide open. Holy Toledo. Saw the whole thing, and I said, well, what were you going to do? Help me? He goes, hell no, I was going to catch the car. I said, no, that you would have. So that was... now, I don't get a call from my son. I put this out to our little family quarantine room, we call it, which was born out of the quarantine period. And I don't get a phone call from any of my kids. Same kids, Al, I sent to the World Series. They were sitting in row 3 back in the day. You know, they don't call and say, gee, Dad, are you okay? It's a harrowing experience you had there at the cemetery. I was almost in the cemetery
That's
for real.
where I was going to thought they might go.
Man, yeah. You know, nowadays with the millenniums, you get like, yeah, wow, you okay? You know, thumbs up, you okay? Yeah, that's it. Imagine that story being told to you.
Well, it's after we got a full, 3 paragraphs about how you were okay, and we got the full breakdown. No, it's not sarcasm, but it's not like it was, oh my God, scary situation.
That's a scary
situation. It was like, here's the whole text litany of, and I'm good.
I'm sorry I made it too long.
Well, how about if they just said, but Dad, at least you had a plot there.
Yeah, a plot, right? Ready to go.
Wouldn't be going far if something went wrong.
And if you're looking for an irony, I had the black convertible, right, with me, which is way less horsepower by like 400 than the red little jet. If it's the red one, that car is in Belmar. It's over 295. Yeah, forget about it. There's no chance of catching that thing.
I might have seen it go past my house without a driver.
Off your canes, you know what I mean? So, well, the next stop in the cemetery was the mausoleum, the Lafferty Mausoleum, where my mom said to me, slow down and watch what you're doing. You know, gee, Mom, I'm here to water your mums, you know? Anyway.
Besides that, just a normal weekend.
There's a normal weekend for you. Dinner at the Capitol Grill's a great weekend. Hey, we're blessed. God bless America. I say that every week. And great friends. And you left the excitement of the World Series. That takes a little getting over because there's just that that drought. You had baseball every day, and when you didn't have baseball, you're looking forward to the next day. You really carried you. And what a hotbed of excitement for 17 games, right? And nothing really quite like it in sports history because nothing lasts 17 games, of course, you know? So you really dug in and wore it. You loved it. You looked forward to it, the conversation. We talked about it last week, the buzz in town, to be in town per se, to drive through town and talk to people. I told you this week they thought the Red Jet was the Phillies sponsored car. No, but would have made a great lead car in the parade. Do you miss it, Wiz, the whole thing?
I missed it a lot. It's it felt like a month ago. It went out this past weekend when it was Friday night, and I said, "Wow, last Friday, we had a whole thing set up. We got some some Chinese food. We had some wine open, watching the game up on Friday night. It was good." Yeah. And that felt like it was gone now, and it was like, wow, that was just last week. There's such great energy and stuff. But
did Al and I miss the invite to the Chinese food and the wine?
Well, you did. It was unfortunately just a private thing, but
yeah. So this is what you have to look forward to, parents. If you're so blessed you can send your kids to the World Series Row 3, be prepared you won't get an invite the next night when they have Chinese food, and or when you make a diving save for your car and you put it out in the deck, say, Dad, you okay? That's the world we live in, but he's a great kid.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Defenseless. So how was your weekend, Coach?
Pretty quiet.
Watching football?
Watched a whole lot of football. And
all right, give me your top 3 impressions, college or pro. Let's not talk about Joel Embiid last night because we will, but keep it football for a moment. Top 3 impressions from the weekend. We got Bo at 10:15, by the way.
Texas is a fraud. That
could have
came
said
out.
that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and they came through like we thought, but all the prognosticators were saying Texas was going to do this and that.
When you say Texas, you're referring to
University of Texas football team.
Okay, I would have had the fraud stamp out on those guys.
The Longhorns.
Back in October. I mean, Oklahoma, for sure. Big fraud. Yeah. I'm going to get you 2 here now. Wiz isn't eligible because he doesn't watch college football at all. Alabama now and then, right?
Every now and then, yeah.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
I mean, obviously I watch the playoffs, but yeah, I don't watch a ton of college football.
I'm going to ask you guys, and this is not going back to stump the coach and that utter unmitigated disaster. Name a team that won the game, and they won the game by 2 touchdowns, that had a total of 146 yards offense.
I think you're referring to the Hawkeyes.
You got that, buddy.
From Iowa.
Iowa. How about that? How about that Big Ten boring slugfest, huh? Imagine that. 140 yards of offense, and you win the game by 2 touchdowns. Where does that leave Wisconsin?
In a bad spot. It's a bad spot. The Cheeseheads are struggling this week, I guess.
And Shiano loses once again. And if you listen to his postgame, you swore he's at 9-0. You got to listen to his postgame. We're improving each week. We're getting better. We're good. We're ready. Just don't win. You know, Michigan State, come on. You got to be kidding me. So that program's not off to the start they thought at all. But pro football, not big game tonight, but are the Eagles going to maintain the perfect record is the talk of the week. Washington's got a sneaky, decent defense. I don't see it at all. I think the 11 points is cheap.
Well, I'll tell you, talking about watching football, I was telling Chad before we opened up today, to watch Jalen Reagor receive 1 punt yesterday and make about 3 moves and gain 2 feet, and then watch Jefferson with one of the greatest catches you'll ever see. And I cannot watch Jefferson without thinking of Jalen Reagor.
No, you can't.
I can't get that out of my mind.
You see the catch, bud?
I did. That catch was. I honestly don't know how he caught it. Right? When it's in his hands, it looks like it has no chance to come down, but then somehow it just stays in. I mean, it's one of the greatest catches you'll ever see.
So strong. He has to be because the defensive man looked like he had 2 hands on it, and Jefferson had 1. And next thing you know, they roll over, and Jefferson's got it.
Did you see the catch in the Notre Dame game? Notre Dame.
I did see that
Navy?
one. I did see that
one.
It
was one of your pressed behind the defender's back. You press the ball to his shoulder blades, if you will, and keep it there. But now you have to come around with the ball, and he has big enough grip on it hands-wise, where after he presses it that way for it seems like forever, he just pulls the ball back out and shows it. But, I mean, there's no way this ball's completed. You know?
Well, didn't Notre Dame score 35 the first half and didn't score the second half?
Yeah, it was I wasn't watching the game, but it ended up being very close, onside kick and all that. But, is there any path for Bama to get with 2 losses? Is there any path, Coach, for them to get back into this?
Well,
thing?
if I have the deciding vote, they don't ever get there.
I don't think so.
Excuse me.
I don't think so. With
They
2 losses.
can't play a team to get to the playoffs, LSU type thing. There's no matchup. I should have looked at this before we started. That would have been decent.
Everything I saw about asking prognosticators what their top 4 would be now and this and that, and Bama was not mentioned. They were moving around TCU and Tennessee.
Yeah, right off.
Right now you have
losses,
Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU, the only undefeated teams left.
Okay, and will
Up
they
there.
really put TCU in?
If they're undefeated, absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
that the yearly snub like last year, Cincinnati? They got blown out and didn't belong there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like when you look at college football, we can say that about like every team but the top 2 teams usually, where they just some aspect they really don't belong. Like there's always
LSU just
always
beat Alabama.
right, but most years there are 2 teams in college that just are leaps and bounds better than the remaining teams.
Yes.
So even if Ohio State's a 4 seed one year, a lot of times it ends up not being great games. That 1v4 game, it seems like.
Yeah, I always try to reach deep within and say, okay, Chuck, what was your point? Because you just confused a few people. I guess I should have been articulated that differently. If a TCU runs the table, which it looks like they will, shouldn't the committee still have the right to say, no, you dilute this tournament, Cincinnati. We don't want you in. We know you're 12-0 and all that stuff, but no. Alabama with 2 losses is better than TCU. Therefore, Alabama's going to be our 4th team.
It's not going to happen. You know that. If it was one loss with Bama, possibly, but not with 2.
Yeah, but like that's not the goal of college play. It's not to just like put a Bama in because they're Bama when you have a team that's undefeated and Bama has 2 losses. If Bama is 0-1 to start the season, then goes 11-1, different situation. But when you have a TCU 12-0 and Bama 8-2 right now, if that's where it ends up, where they're 10-2. I think they're gonna put TCU in.
So Notre Dame's definitely screwed as an independent because they're with 3 losses.
3 losses.
Yeah, they're done. One of them being to believe it or not. So they beat Clemson, get the stamp fraud out. They beat Clemson and they turn around earlier and lose to. Can you remember now? It's so long ago, back in September. Good question.
Why is it not jumping out at me?
Any help on this one?
No idea.
You're going to have to look it up, Notre Dame schedules, as I'm dragging here. We got to get Bowa in 2 minutes. I'm going to say, and Wiz will confirm, it was, you're not going to believe this, Marshall.
Yeah, Notre Dame lost to Marshall 26-21 at home.
Marshall in South Bend at the Mecca.
I remember you bringing that up when it happened because Marshall's a team that playing years back.
Portal quarterback, kid's 5th year. He's sensational. And with a really hot quarterback, anything's possible if the rest of your talent's decent, right? So that was it was a crazy weekend. Ohio State, to me, doesn't look like world beaters. What do you think?
No, not as much as that we thought they were. See, when these teams start off the first 3 or 4 games and they're 40 and 45-point favorites, it's tough to gauge when they really get into better competition.
Yeah. But it's so if you had to pick right now, forget the top 4, just give me your winner of the whole shooting match. If you had to pick right now,
I'll tell you who I enjoy. I enjoy watching Tennessee. They got a lot of great athletes and so forth. It'd be neat to see them jump up there.
Quick
but
offense.
Didn't they just fraud up 2 weekends ago against Georgia, right? They weren't even in the game. Georgia made them look silly 2 weekends ago, right?
Yeah, Tennessee just has so many great athletes. And Josh Heupel, I think I was telling you, I think he's a great coach. It's going to be.
Yeah, I just don't like it when the team's all revved up.
Well, I don't see anybody beating Georgia if you want to just come right down to that.
That's where we're at.
That's what
here.
it seems like.
This is Georgia's year, right? Which it shouldn't be off of last year being Georgia's year.
Well, it's because Bama didn't come back this year.
Bama didn't come back.
I mean, who was going to challenge Georgia? It had to be Alabama. And you can say Ohio State. Look at Ohio State's scores; they're pretty good, but I don't know how they're.
You and I, took Ole Miss in our group.
We did.
With the points.
Yeah, we did.
We had to work a little bit, but it looked like the right side to be on. And I also took off of a big win, how do you not take whoever LSU plays? How do you not take them? Plus, they were getting 3.5 points. And I got to tell you, when you talk about a team that's a dog team that can't move the football, Arkansas, man, that you could put them in prime time and dress them up. And if they have to get 300 yards of total offense, they're just not going to do it, Coach. I don't care what they do, how big it is at home. They just, so, hey, for
right,
Kelly
guys,
to come back.
Sorry to interrupt here. Looks like we have Bowa on the line here.
Yeah, Bo on.
Bo, are you with us?
Yes.
Awesome. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Coach, good to talk to you. Have you come down from that high yet? I know it was a big disappointment at the end, but, man.
Yeah, it was a fun ride. Everything fell into place, and we played pretty good. We couldn't get it done, but got to be happy the way everything unfolded at the end.
Yeah, I mean, what energy. I got a question for you. I think we may have actually before. When you were in that stadium and feeling the pulse. You okay?
No. Yeah.
Right. I know you're getting over something. Yeah.
Yeah.
The buzz, the vibe, the whole thing, you played in many different arenas where it was crazy insane. But everyone's saying that we took it to a new level. It certainly felt that way the few games I was at. But could you say for sure that you felt something during our home games that was just unprecedented, that this is just a crazy vibe I've never felt before?
Yeah, I mean, you could feel it. I mean, they brought the energy every night. The only one I could probably equate it to maybe was Houston in the 80s.
Right.
Because it was a dome stadium and the noise couldn't get out. But as far as an outdoor stadium, people say there's no home field advantage in baseball, but I definitely thought there was.
Yeah.
During the playoffs this year, I really did.
Yeah, it makes you wonder when a game's on the line and the fans are going, they're just acting, hysterical, it's nuts. It makes you wonder, does it diminish the skills of a very good player? You're up there 0-2. First of all, the guy's throwing 100. That'll diminish skills real quick. But then you got this noise factor. Does it just kind of vibrate your inner sanctum where you're just not as talented or skilled at that moment because it's seemingly impossible to perform? It just feels that way.
I just think it affects your concentration. Right. I mean, I don't think the noise, for the most part, you say, "Oh my God, it's noisy," but I think your concentration level sort of goes down because of the noise that's coming out. I mean, it helps. I think it goes both ways, though. Now, when you're the home team, I think it increases your concentration.
Yeah.
And the visitor, I think it diminishes it.
Yeah, you articulated that much better than I did. I think that's what I wanted to say. You said it the right way. Couple things that went on, notably 4 things. And I realize in respect, I'm going to then give the mic over to the guys here. But 4 things I had, and I realize you can only be so candid here, and I respect that. But if we could just coach here, I know you're always coaching as you're watching. Syndergaard starting the 4th inning when everybody talked about 3 innings. I know he pitched effectively. When you saw him in the 4th inning, was there any hesitancy you had to say, we have everybody rested, the whole committee's ready, let's turn it over versus turn over that Houston lineup, especially as hot as Pena was? Did you have any regrets when you saw him going to the 4th inning?
Not really. I really didn't. I think that he pitched very well for us in those spot starts, or they call them openers, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
His pitch count wasn't really high. And the way Rob was using his pitchers, I thought he did a tremendous job there.
Mm-hmm.
I would have let him go, I think. But again, that's hindsight,
Yep.
But at the time, I had no problem with it at the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
Okay, of the 4, 3 scenarios are definitely hindsight. If it works out, it looks great. If not, it doesn't. And one's more of a strategy. So maybe hop to the strategy next. The one thing I couldn't understand, and Harper batting 4th bugged me big time. Because, for instance, and I know the circumstances aren't identical, but just to draw a comparison, Judge and Trout have played 2,000 Major League Baseball games and batted 4th 11 times. That's just not where you see the best player batting anymore. Now, in a 1976 Reds lineup where the first three guys are on base, 376, maybe not as critical. But to a lineup that's suffocating from offense, except for the home run balls, I just couldn't understand Harper in the 4-hole with guys in front of him batting 156. I just think you stack your offense to get something going, thinking that if you get Schwarber and Harper on with one out, it makes the guys in back of them better hitters because you just have less, opportunity to pitch around.
I agree with what you just said. I think the one thing that made Tomps so popular, or I shouldn't say popular, so respected, I should say, in that clubhouse was he was very consistent with his lineup. That especially at the top. There were some adjustments he made at the bottom when there was a left-handed pitcher. But for the most part, I think those players like that consistency. They like the fact they know who's hitting in front, who's hitting behind. And I'm not saying that if we started the season tomorrow that he would go with that lineup again. Mm-hmm. I think at the time he thought there was a lot of continuity in that lineup, and he felt there was a lot of confidence throughout the clubhouse putting the same lineup out there. But I understand your point. I mean, I personally, I want my best hitter to hit in the first inning. I mean, they can give me a 1-0 lead in the top of the first or bottom of the first. He's going to probably get an extra at bat at the end. But but like I said, I think the pros for Tom's was he had the trust of that entire clubhouse, and they like that continuity. They like knowing who's hitting hit where and who's hitting behind him. So.
Yeah, I get you. When you say, go with the horse that brought you, but when he left in June with the injury, the unfortunate injury, he was batting third. He comes back to 4. So when we talk consistency, isn't there a bit of a paradox in there, Bo?
Yeah, there is. There is. But I think, in fairness to all this, I think at that time when he was hitting 3, I think who was hitting 4? Was it Rio Muto?
Yeah, they had JT,
and then they had Castellanos.
Castellanos,
right. And I think that Tom's thought, and I thought he was too. I thought Castellanos swung the bat better going down the stretch. Mm-hmm. I did. I know that the numbers don't see it. I'm just looking at his swings, at his bats, and so I think he felt like he's going to be okay to protect Harp. I don't know who really in that lineup. I mean, you could pick anybody to hit after Harp because when he's hot like that, it doesn't matter who's coming up next. Most managers do not want to let him beat you, and but I think that was this train of thought there. Castellanos was swinging the bat better. That's why we moved everybody up a notch, and Rio Muto was hitting 3rd, Harp 4, and Castellanos 5.
Right. Okay, let's move it along here to Wheeler. I'm watching right there, and won't dive into the stats, versus right-handed versus left-handed, but in a sense, loyalty-wise, wasn't it Wheeler's game to lose right there? Can't you let him finish that out? He's throwing 98.
He was throwing good.
Man, dear.
He was throwing as good as I've seen him. There's no question about that, especially the last month. My philosophy on that is we were up 1-0. And the worst scenario I thought would happen, because I think if Tomps could probably redo it, I understand what he was thinking. He wanted to strike out.
Yeah, strike out.
But Wheeler can get you a strikeout. He can get you a ground ball and a fly ball. And the hitter coming up wasn't crushing the ball, but he had good at bats. I mean, this guy is a good hitter. So he was looking for the strikeout. He didn't get it. He gave up a home run. But personally, I probably would have let Wheeler go until the worst scenario there probably would have been 1-1 tie.
1-1 tie, yep.
Yeah, he only had 70 pitches, I think, 71.
71 pitches.
Right. I thought he was throwing the ball well. But, again, every move that Tom's made, with the exception of Alvarado going down the stretch there, he had a lot of success. And Alvarado, hey, you got to give the guy credit. He hit a fastball that he crushed it.
He did crush it, didn't he? That ball had to come down.
Personally, I thought Wheeler, that's the best I've seen him throw, especially from once he came back.
Yeah.
from missing a start.
JT went out of his way to make that clear because you don't hear professional catchers use lightning bolts. Okay, that told you all you needed to know about his action.
He was exceptional. I thought he was exceptional.
And when Marshy comes up there first and third, you got a young guy. Presley's filthy. It's kind of a mismatch. First and third, one out. Isn't that? And I know this is hindsight, but let's not make it hindsight. Proactively, isn't that just a great spot to give him strike one to use the foul line? If it's foul, it's foul. But if it's fair, safety squeeze, you got your run. Wouldn't that have just been a great matchup to let him try to bunt?
Yeah, that's a great strategy. There's no question about that. If you look at Marshy's numbers since he came over here, they're on the rise. There's no question.
Yep.
I mean, he did a great job, and I really believe that. I'm sure that went through Thompson's mind. That play is a play that if you get the bunt down, a decent bunt, you're going to get a run. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
But the play that bothered me more than anything, it had nothing to do with managers' moves. It had nothing to do with anything. Is when Pena got the base hit up the middle.
50 hops.
That to me, see, old school guys, you squeeze the middle and play for a double play.
Exactly.
That's a routine double play ball back in the day. It's not even. Oh, I wonder if he'd have got that.
Right.
But because of the analytics and positioning players, the shortstop was over a little bit, and that ball trickled through.
Yep.
So if you really want to analyze Wheeler's outing, that could have been an ending double play, and the guy doesn't even hit that inning. That's 3 outs.
Yeah, it's a great point. Last week,
but those little things that people don't understand, and to me, and this is not knocking analytics, they don't understand when a guy's got exceptional stuff.
Right.
There's not a lot of guys that pull him. I mean, if it's pulled, it's going to be a very weak ground ball where the third baseman can go over and make it.
Yeah.
To me, that was the key play for me. I don't care about the strategy.
Right.
When that ball was hit, I went double play, still 1-0.
Yep.
And the ball went into center field, and obviously Altuve goes third.
Yep.
That changes the whole mindset of the manager, pitching coach, everything. But nothing was said about that in articles or anything because, the analytics, they give you these charts, and they basically put a lot of time into it, and they thought that the shortstop was in the right position.
We dove in last week in depth on that play, and what Chad showed was the spray charts, to paraphrase Chad, that showed why they were playing him middle to pull. What we countered back to Chad was Wheeler's throwing 98. So forget the spray charts. To your point about analytics, game feel, you got to be playing him up the middle there. And on the same sequence, and I hate to jump on a guy, I really like Rhys Hoskins a lot. I hope they keep him. But it wasn't a real good stretch at first base, Bo. It was like a 3/4 stretch instead of a full layout where you're...
Oh, you're talking about Altuve's double play ball.
Hoskins just doesn't give you much on that,
Right. And in all fairness, Hoskins and Bobby Dickerson, those guys work every day. And so it's hard to get on a player, whether it's offensively or defensively, if you see the work put in every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they work every day. So, that's just the way it is. I don't think Haas is ever going to be a Gold Glover.
No.
But I do think he's improved, and he has a long way to go. Now, that being said, we're going back to the analytic part of it. You made a statement about a guy's throwing 98. They don't put that into consideration when they're doing this analytic stuff. I mean, he might have a bad day. A guy might go from 98 to 94. And now you say, well, your eyes tell you, he doesn't have that good stuff. I'm going to shade this guy to pull.
Right.
Or your eyes might tell you, in Wheeler's case, man, he's got great stuff tonight. I'm going to shade up the middle here. But again, the computer doesn't say that when it comes. That doesn't say, oh, if he has good stuff, play him here. If he doesn't have good stuff, play him here. And that's, to me, what the negative is on that. Because players are not the same every day.
Exactly.
They have personal problems. They have small ailments that they don't reveal to the manager, coaches, training staff. People don't understand that part of the game. And that is human element. And until they figure out to get the human element, they're going to have these people questioning, why was he there? Why wasn't he there? And it just, like I said, your eyes, if you've been in baseball a long time, your eyes and your gut tell you a lot about what you see and what you've seen in the past when this guy pitched in, or what maybe he came to you and said, man, I didn't get any sleep last night. My wife just had a baby.
Right.
I was up for 5 hours from 3 a.m. till 7 a.m. That is never put into the computer.
Exactly.
And there's so many human elements involved. You're playing every day. You're not playing once a week. You're playing every single day. And that's the part that annoys me a little bit, is that the human element isn't involved in all these decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely accurate. And when you talk about decision-making based on game feel, here's a stat. I don't want to embarrass you here, but here's a stat that proves that. I would imagine at your prime, and you were quick, and Turner had a foot race, I would imagine Trey Turner beat you. I think you'll probably – yeah, okay.
Yeah, I admit that, yeah.
How about this stat? So take Trey Turner right now. There's something called, not to bore you to death, but something called an RF9. That's range factor over 9 innings. Pretty simple metric. And Turner career is a 3.66. Bogarts is 3.74. Larry Bowa, based on feel, knowledge, game, slower than Turner, maybe not Bogarts, was a 4.80, guys. So Bowa was a full point higher than those two guys. And I think he's going to tell you, because I think he told me this at lunch one day, that's knowing Carlton. I mean, he had Schmidt alongside of him that's going to take his fair share of ground balls, and he's still a full point higher than other guys that play shortstop that are great shortstops. That's hard to reconcile. That's a lot of game feel.
That's instincts right there. It really is. I mean, look.
Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, just watching Turner, I mean, I thought I was fast. Turner to me takes it to another level. But I mean, those stats, that's shocking for me to hear that.
Yeah.
And so then if you equate everything and just say that I was playing today, then my numbers would be higher than Turner's, which is hard for me to understand.
That's
that.
Absolutely true.
But like you said, it's instincts, it's gut feeling. No one had to tell me when Carlton was pitching or somebody that was overpowering how to play certain hitters. I mean, we had we called it a spray chart.
Right.
And we looked at the spray chart, and I wouldn't look at the same spray chart when maybe Larry Christensen was throwing and Carlton was throwing. I would take Carlton's and look at his. And that's the difference. I think now we just throw everything into the computer. I would like to see all, and I know it's a small, probably no sample, but all Wheeler's pitches against a guy like Pena, which I'm sure there wasn't any because he's a rookie, but that's the kind of stuff that I think should be brought out, especially when you're playing each other in the National League. I don't care what Joe Schmo hits off of Aaron Nola or where he hits the ball. I want to see what he does off of Wheeler.
Absolutely.
And, and I think if they break it down even farther like that, I'm sure they do in some instances, but for the most part, it's one size fits all. Let's do it this way.
Just to complete that crazy Boa statistic, it gets even better. So, players age. Obviously, the legs start to go certainly before 37 years old. That's not prime 37. You go to the Cubs. This is more remarkable. You go to the Cubs, Bo, as people think we're related. Bo, we're not related, right? We're not related. Okay.
No, we're not related. No. No, in fact, these numbers you're giving me, I've never even seen them. You gave me numbers before, and when I look at them, I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
maybe it was decent.
Yeah, it was funny. But this one's crazier. You go to the Cubs, you're 37 years old, and one of the threshold for a lot of chances is 700. Like Ozzie had 900 once and Ripken. So that's crazy, okay?
Yeah,
there's only a handful of 800s. You had 700 chances 5 times. Jeter did it twice. But at 37 years old, Bo has 705 chances for the Cubs at 37, which is almost You can't. It's got to be a tougher infield in Chicago. Half the year it's a frozen. It's 705 chances. So you can't say, oh, because he played in Philly with Carlton, he took advantage of that and da 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 da. No, actually in Philly, Schmidt took a good amount of his chances away, and then at 37, you're still doing that, Bo. That's just an unbelievable hats off to what a sensational shortstop you were. I mean, I've said it before. It's Ozzie you defensively.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that. And, you know, and again, if you don't bring these numbers up to me, you know, people ask me about my career. I said, I think I had a good career considering I never got drafted and played high school. But on the other hand, when you show me these numbers, I'm going, man, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Because you gave me some other numbers that I looked at when we had dinner one time, and I was astonished at those numbers. But, you know, the game is played by numbers now, more so than when I played, obviously. And when these free agents come out, obviously they look at WAR and as you said, first step. You know, I look back at my career, and if those numbers were then maybe I would have been drafted. I don't know.
Right.
You know, it's hard for me to determine. You know, like right now, there's a bunch of shortstops coming out, and I say you can't go wrong with any of them that you get, in my opinion. Right. To me, Turner's probably, because of his offensive abilities and his ability to hit anywhere in the lineup, probably a step ahead or maybe a little bit ahead of the others. But you could throw all those guys into a hat and say, hey, I'm going to take this guy, and you'd have a much better infield, whoever you pick.
I'm going to turn it over to Chad. Thanks, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, on that note of the shortstops, kind of where I kind of wanted to go with it. And I mean, you look at the numbers, they're all very similar, and Turner's definitely the most popular name you hear when, just slightly ahead of the rest. I don't. In my personal feel, if I could choose, I think Carlos Correa would be an awesome fit for this team. I don't know if he'll get necessarily less money than a Turner because he's already making $35 million. And you think Turner will probably get the highest deal, but Correa's a little younger. I think he just turned 28. I think he'd be an awesome addition. I mean, I assume that you move Stott to second base.
And
you kind of roll with the team that way. But I really think any one of those guys you pick up would be a huge move. And it looks like the Phillies are going to get one out of the four. That's where it seems to be leaning based on what we're reading right now in the media.
Yeah, it sounds like that we are. Again, this is preliminary stages right now. I do know that there's a history with the Boston shortstop and Dave.
Okay.
And so I don't know which way they're going to go. I'm sure that according to the articles I read and just talking with Dave periodically, you know, I don't think they want to blow up the bank on this.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to pay whoever they get. But there's going to be one or two guys probably get a little bit more because I think, you know, talking with Dave, when I talked to him, this was before the playoffs started, he really emphasized pitching. He wanted to get more pitching. And not that he's not going to get a shortstop, but pitching was like right up there with what he wanted to try to do to improve our team.
Is Painter a mid-year guy he could get up, Bo? Is he a full season?
Yeah, let me tell you something. The way Dave Dombrowski is, it wouldn't shock me. Again, the odds aren't great. If this guy came in and had an unbelievable spring, I could see him being a 5-starter just to take care of the innings early and dominate. If he comes in and dominates in spring training, which I'm sure that he's going to be at the top of his game, but he's close. I'm going to tell you right now, he's real close.
Now, you saw him a few times last year, correct? You saw Painter?
Yep.
His strikeout to his pitch ratio is like almost 2-1. It's insane. You just don't see it.
He's unbelievable. He's got great stuff.
Wow.
1.56 ERA over 103 innings this year.
Man, how exciting.
And as a starter, 13.5 strikeouts per 9. That's insane.
He's the real deal, barring any injuries.
And
this guy's the top of the rotation guy.
Before I turn it over to Coach Al, I just got to get your reaction to this. When San Diego bunted for the second out and Hader wasn't in that game, were you absolutely astonished at what you were looking at?
I was shocked. Yeah. I was shocked.
I was thinking
I could not believe it.
I was thinking.
And, you know, people say that Melvin will always protect his players. I don't know to this day. Maybe he said, hey, try to go for a base hit, but that looked like a sacrifice to me.
It sure did.
And I'm sure that if he did it on his own, I'm sure Bob tried to take the heat off him and and basically tell him, hey, I put it on. But I was shocked. And again, nothing against. First of all, I didn't like the strategy, but when you have Nola's brother coming up, who's got one hit the whole series, now you got Machado coming up or somebody like that. I'm saying, well, maybe,
right.
But with Nola coming up, I just said I don't understand that move. But again, I didn't understand the fact that Hader was left in the bullpen either, and that's another story. But,
he's got to live with both those calls. They're both ugly calls at that spot, man. I mean, everybody. We're all texting in our group saying, "Here comes Hader."
Yeah,
man, that was just.
I was watching him warm up. And I said, in fact, I was sitting with Charlie Manuel. I said, "Well, he's not going to pitch to this guy. Hader's coming in." And we kept waiting, and then the pitching coach went out, and I went, "Whoa, I guess he's not."
Yeah. So you and Charlie sit alongside each other. Do you agree more often than you disagree? Because you're both coaching a game, let's face it.
Right.
Do you guys think alike a lot, or do you guys push back a lot?
No, most of the time we're pretty much on the same page because as the people that are running baseball now, the analytic people, they think we're old school. So we call it baseball school. I don't call it old or new. I just call it baseball school.
Coach Al.
Well, Bo, Coach Al, good morning.
Good morning.
They've taken a lot of my information here.
That's okay.
Sounds like maybe you and Chuck could do a book deal. It sounds like very promising there. But to get back with Alvarado coming in, and Rob made a lot of great decisions all year, but based on when him coming in with first and third and one out, I think the tendency, he's a lot better off starting an inning. For the factor that when he came the time before that facing Alvarez, he hit him in the back, and then he had a couple wild pitches. Right. So I think as a hitter, you're probably going to be sitting on that fastball more because with men on first and third, you don't want the possibility of throwing those couple pitches in the dirt.
Right, I agree. And his best pitch going down the stretch was his cutter, and there's that chance that you spike the cutter and it goes back to the screen. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was the reason for the fastball selection. And again, it turned out bad, but usually there's answers why you didn't throw a certain pitch. And Alvarado, for the most part, hey, without him, we probably don't even get to the playoffs. But it just so happens he had two outings where things didn't go his way. He hit them the first time. There was no room for error in that game. He came in with the bases loaded, and then the time that he picked up Wheeler here. He knew that first and third, if the ball gets by the catcher at all, Altuve probably scores. We have the shift on, so you figure Bohm's off the line there. He gets a good walk and lead. So there's so many things that went into that, why we call that pitch, I think.
Another thing, Larry, if Harper comes back, depending on whether he needs an arm operation or not, and he's okay to throw, what's your starting outfield for next year?
So it's probably going to be Harp, Schwarb, and Marsh, and then he'll rotate Schwarb and Castellanos as DH. That's just my opinion. Uh-huh. And obviously he'll give Harp blows. He won't let him play every day right away. Then you can throw in if you want Haas as a DH. We got a lot of options there. But I would say if we were starting tomorrow, this is just me, I would start the three guys I named and have Castellanos as your DH.
And the last thing, if as of right now, if we get Turner or one of those other shortstops, is your infield Bohm, Turner, Stott, and Reese?
Right now, yeah. Right now, that's how I would do it. And again, there's so many things that can change between now and first day of spring training. Things that sort of bother me looking ahead right now is JT signing up for the World Baseball Classic. This guy caught every inning of every game.
Really, man.
And you got to get ready early because this thing starts early. So he's going to want at bats in spring training early. Again, I know he's a great athlete and everything. I just hope that they take care of him, when they put these lineups together for the World Baseball Classic and say, man, this guy's been a horse. You might want to DH him some games in the World Baseball Classic because It sort of scares me a little bit to see him start up right away. It's a short off season as it is, and now it's going to be shorter with the World Baseball Classic. So that'd be something for all of us, especially in Philly, to watch.
Yeah, does the Phillies Brain Trust have any input there, Bo, with the people running the whole thing, you know?
You know, I think they do to a certain extent, but like Dave said, these guys are men.
Yeah.
I think they'd be more of an impact on pitchers.
Right.
You know, they might call up and say, hey, man, my guy just threw 185 innings. I can't let him go out there and throw right out of the gate 5 innings or something like that. They can give their opinions what they think, but I don't think they ever try. I know Dave, I don't think he goes in there and says, I don't want you to go. First of all, I don't think he can do that.
Right.
And like you said, these guys are grown men. They know exactly what their body feels like. And it's an honor to play in the World Baseball Classic, but you also have to be smart.
Yeah, about your career. Here's a stat we'll leave you with. So as we know, the pitching is just getting ridiculously talented skill. It used to be a couple 100-mile-an-hour pitchers, and now you got a whole roster full of them with Houston, and you just wonder where it's going to cap off. It's not that they're getting faster, there's just more of them, which makes it a nightmare, which is why you have 82 Major League Baseball players participating in postseason. Wait to hear this number, Bo. 40 of them hit below 200. I mean, talk about pitching dominant.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and then we take R. Harper, who I think is morphed into the best player in the game. I think if you take his 2 injuries away, they're like catastrophic injuries because, first of all, anywhere around the eye. So when you come back from that, he was 30 days where he was half of himself. And even a hand injury, you could see when he came back how digressed he was. If you take those 2 seasons injuries away, I know you can't do that, the numbers that he would have put up both of those seasons, and when in the postseason with that pitching, he puts up 3, and this is over 63 at bats. It's a big enough sample size. 349, 414, slug 746. That's more like slow pitch softball. 1.160 OPS. Bro, that's ridiculous to be able to do that damage offensively against that type of
elite pitching.
Elite, man.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, I agree. He took it to another level. I would like to see him. I know when you play 162 games, there's risk of injury, but I like to see his numbers in our ballpark at 150 plus games.
Right.
No injuries, especially in the hands or in the face, like he said he had. I mean, I could see this guy hitting 50 to 60. Him and Schwarber, hitting 50 to 60 home runs, being healthy, both of them.
Yeah, no argument there. And he's a bargain now that all the other players are getting higher and higher. You know, Harper's contract is economically very, very, pleasing to the Phillies. Man, dear, is he a bargain? Well, listen, Bo, I think you predicted this back in April that this roster could get to a World Series. I'm pretty sure Larry Bowa said that.
I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I did. But if you'd asked me in June, I probably would have reneged because of obviously, if you look in the crystal ball and you say, well, Harper's not going to play the outfield, he's going to miss so many games. I said, well, we might be in trouble. But hey, everybody responded. Everybody was pulling the rope the same way, and I'm sure Dave's going to go out and do what he has to do to make us get a step closer. I mean, you're 2 wins away from being the world champion.
Yep.
Most of the team, for the most part, is coming back. I mean, there's going to be some changes in the bullpen, obviously, because there's free agents down there. Segura is still up in the air, but I'm sure that if we get a shortstop, that would be Gene did a tremendous job for us here, and they just moved Stott over. And, the other thing, if we don't, just say we don't get a shortstop, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this guy. I've seen him play a little bit. Sosa's really, really good.
Oh, my God, yeah.
At shortstop.
Yeah,
and if you take a look at what he hit in St. Louis, he played a whole lot of games. He was right around 270.
Right.
And I'm just saying, if you don't do a single thing and you don't get a shortstop, if we don't get a shortstop, we're going to get a lot of other things. But if we don't, I wouldn't even be hesitant to put Sosa at shortstop. As far as the defensive part of it goes, Stott at second, because I think you would really be improving your team that way. But to have a guy like Sosa is a chip for you because he can play anywhere in the infield. He gives you good at-bats. He can run a little bit. That was a great pickup by Dave.
It was.
And people don't understand. I got to see this guy take his ground balls every day. his backhands, moving right and moving left. He's a special defender. So, I mean, I don't want anybody to get discouraged if we don't, but I think just by reading articles and everything, we got a good shot at getting one of these. Again, we're going to have to see how this plays out. I'm sure everyone's going to wait to see where the chips fall for where Turner goes. No one's talking about Dansby Swanson either. This guy's a pretty good shortstop.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's Bogarts, Correa, Swanson, and who am I missing here? I missed three.
Correa, Bogarts, Swanson, and Turner.
Right. You can roll the dice with any of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
One's going to be a little bit higher, and whoever the lowest paid one is, you're probably going to get a bargain there.
Right.
Because you can throw these guys all into a hat, and to me, they're all outstanding shortstops.
The one thing Turner does, and tell me if you disagree, I think Turner makes batting leadoff pretty obvious and reconstruct the lineup. And just a matter, I know if, but Schwarber did it against the toughest pitching in postseason more so than regular. That's unbelievable. Hats off. So if he stays regular season productive as he did in the post, Harper doesn't get injured again, I do believe Castellanos comes back and becomes the 295 to 305 hitter that he was. I just thought it was kind of bizarre that he missed it, and he did get better in the second half. I just think he comes back next year. He's too good a natural hitter.
I do too. I think what we saw in Castellanos was a new ball club.
Yep.
The atmosphere obviously different. He's not used to playing in crowds like this. The intensity of the city. I just think a lot of that, it goes into the first year when a guy gets signed as a free agent. The expectations were high. And I really think, as you said, this guy's a natural hitter. And I think our offense is going to be just fine.
Yeah, I can't imagine Turner, Harper, Schwarber for the top three.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And with the shift,
throw Realmuto in there. And I think Bohm has really matured as a hitter. This guy's going to start hitting some home runs. It's going to be a nasty lineup to try to navigate through, and hopefully it'll take some pressure off whatever pitcher we get, and of course Wheeler and Nola. I mean, if you go back and look at when Wheeler and Nola pitched, it seemed like, I know it didn't happen, but it seemed like every game going in the fifth inning it was 1-0 or nothing. And it'd be nice for those guys to get 3 or 4 runs early and then.
Yeah,
exactly.
Isn't that the truth, man? Exactly. It just doesn't seem like we ever give those guys a 3-0.
I know it. It's unbelievable.
It's always competitive pitches into the sixth inning. But that would be one heck of a lineup. And the last point, last point. But Baum got better defensively, and so did our shortstop. Hoskins is working just as hard as those two, right? He didn't go to the beach at 3:00, right? Yeah. No,
the Hoskins probably worked harder than all of them.
Okay.
I mean, this guy really wants to improve.
Yep.
And again, you can't make a guy run faster. It's just like you're not going to make Hoskins a Gold Glove.
Right.
But I don't think there's a guy in that clubhouse, or even if you work in the front office, if you watch Hoskins' work ethic before a game, it's off the charts. And when a guy's working and trying to get better, now if he's sat in the clubhouse that I'll take 5 ground balls,
right?
That's not the case. This guy works hard, and he'll be the first. And he steps forward. He says, "I got to make that play. It's my fault."
He does.
I like his attitude. I like the way he works. And we just got to try to make him execute routine plays just a little bit better. And as you pointed out, stretching on certain plays a little bit means a lot. Yep. And but I know Bobby Dickerson's talked to him about that. I know that. I've heard the conversation. So hopefully that can improve, and we'll see what happens.
Well, Bo, I got to tell you, our podcast in particular had a really good year. You were a big part of that with your contribution, staying loyal to us. We really appreciate it so much. After this podcast, we take a break. We'll be back in baseball season. But thank you for everything. Have a great off season, Bo. Thank you so much, my man.
Thanks, Bo.
Pleasure,
guys.
Coach. Bye-bye.
All right. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bye. Yep. Very illuminating.
We could have done an hour there.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we at wrap or where are we time-wise?
We got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, we got 10 minutes left.
It's about 55.
All right, let's talk. Let's pick up on the conversation with Bo. Your remarks, Wiz?
I mean, I think a lot of those comments were spot on. To be honest, I was surprised to hear him say how hard Hoskins was working.
Yeah, me too.
Just because you think a professional athlete, if they're working that hard, they have to get better. And it just didn't seem to me that, Hoskins was making the basic scoops and stuff. But just to hear them working that hard is a good thing. But you got to then wonder, when is that going to translate to actual results? Because something has to change. If you're working hard, you gotta get better. And in the playoffs, he had some really, really just maybe it was the pressure of the playoffs. Maybe just write it off as the pressure of the playoffs why he struggled.
I'm going to ask you a question: is it more mental or is it more physical? When you look at the picture on the double play, and you see Hoskins in this position, is that more physical or mental? Why not the full stretch?
Well.
That's a habit that he's had, and he evidently hasn't broken it.
I don't think we even know if he can make that stretch. Do we know if he has that flexibility?
Yeah,
more than this,
more than that, but it probably is mental.
I don't expect to see him on the gymnastics team.
No, he won't be pulling Freddie Freeman soon. Anything like that.
No. But who knows? In the off season, can he do exercises to get more limber if he, I'm going to say, has a tight groin. Okay, there I go. But can he?
You can.
Yeah. I would think that you could have some improvement. At 30 years old, you're not going to just turn right around and be, a Gold Glover.
Yeah, because I can live with his 825 OPS. I mean, and I can live with his 70 extra base hits. Go find me another guy that gives you 70 extra base hits a year. Okay.
All right. I don't want him batting second in the lineup either.
No, but remember when he was Rhys Hoskins, he was 380 on base. This was the unique guy that gave you OPS. And the reason the OPS calculated that high was because his on-base it wasn't his batting average. He didn't bat 330. His batting average was low. Well, by modern standards, not maybe right, but the on-base percentage was 370, 380. Therefore, with the extra base hits, he was a good player. I mean, I had no problems with Hoskins, Now he's costing you games. He comes back at first base.
It'd be nice to find out when there's 2 or 3 streaks, if you notice that, and move him right back up in the lineup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Thompson will not change for cold streaks. And as I realized, we managed at the amateur level, and you didn't have as many games, so you moving guys around. But it's common nowadays to see juxtaposition of lineups. It's what he's doing is more unique right now than the norm. I mean, it's I think I said that unique. Yeah, the norm. That's right. But he just gets too loyal to players, and I think if you take somebody out of the 2-hole that's really struggling after 100 at bats, and that's a good number by the way in my book, 100 at bats, I think you're doing the guy a favor. JT, if he's
less pressure,
if he's 10 for 100. And you said, I'm going to drop you down a little bit. That's kind of like a break?
You would think, yeah. I mean, the guy's if it's not working, you got to change something.
See, you can look at it the other way too. When I suggested a while back about possibly moving Bohm up into that 5th slot and Castellano. Now, is that going to mess with his psyche, which he already looked a little bit confused at times?
Boa mentioned an interesting point with the shortstop opinion. He's that good that his DRS is going to be very high. At the end of the day, it's only about the net impact of games that you matter. We don't jump into this with our viewers, because they don't want us to talk heavy analytics. But when a guy is a 5-WAR player, okay, that's against replacement value. It doesn't mean the guy just won you 89 games. It doesn't work that way. It's not that direct. So if you take Pena's DRS, defensive run saved next year, and he contributes a little bit offensively, and the other 3 do what we said, I think Schwarber will have a better year in the regular season next year. You agree, guys?
No, I don't.
I think he will in the regular season.
I think if he moves his lineup, yes. I think the leadoff spot, no, I don't think
Castellanos better than this year, yes or no?
Has to.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had 305 the year before with 34 home runs. I mean, so it's there somewhere. You don't.
And let's just roll the
much.
dice and say Harper doesn't have another catastrophic injury for the 3rd year in a row. That's a lot more offense right there. So you don't need to spend that $35 million on Turner. I think you still get close to the run production. I know that sounds crazy. You have to break it out and look at WAR per player. And does it add up to the aggregate? You're only off a little bit, but then go pick up the DRS on Pena versus Turner, who has no range. It's not what people think. This has been demonstrated many, many years where they got rid of a guy, got the new guy. Last year with the guy for the Pirates, it was the MVP that we had out in left field.
McCutcheon.
And we pick up
Andrew
scoreboard.
McCutcheon.
Yeah, and I said to a lot of people, the net of that may not be all that much. As it was, he really tailed off, so my argument didn't hold up. Are the Eagles going to go undefeated?
I don't think so. And I've looked at a couple stats which are really surprising. Everybody remembers the Dolphins 17-0. Well, in 2007, the Patriots were 18-0 and got beat in the Super Bowl. So just an example there that you're not infallible. And it's going to be ironic, and you've heard me say all year about the New Orleans. And they're now 3-7. We got their number one draft choice next year. I love rooting against New Orleans every week. It little things like that. But
well, that matters though. I mean, you're looking at a team that's
deal.
as good as the Eagles are with the high first-round draft pick. That
gives you a lot of maneuverability to have two number ones to maybe. If, say, the Saints had a 6th or 7th pick, along with your pick at the end, you can slide up to 2 or 3 if you just pick somebody that you think is by far the best player at their position, which should help you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can put in a day one starter in there. That's going to be a high-level player. That's going to be huge in the NFL.
My daughter Lauren and her husband Perry, son-in-law, they did their yearly sojourn out to Pittsburgh to see a game. They beat the Saints. And they were staying at the hotel where the New Orleans Saints were staying.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Perry's texting us. All of a sudden, I'm seeing a lot of large men in the elevator. They must be professional football players. And he sends me a text like, wow, when you see one, you know.
You don't realize till you stand next to him as you're looking up.
You don't. When I was a kid, my dad used to do the financing for Jim Correa's gym in Cherry Hill. Nobody listening is going to know this story. Except Al does, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in back of the bowling alley. And I used to go in there as a 9-year-old. And Bob Brown would be in the weight room with my friend Bill Kelly. And Bob Brown would be asking Bill and I at like 10 to spot him. Okay, well, what the hell are we going to do other than run and call for help, you know? And whatever he's bench pressing back then, all I remember is seeing those discs added on those big things.
He was enormous, not big,
and
enormous.
And the bars bending. And then he would do the squats, and it looked like he had all the weight in the weight room on these squats, right? And so you saw these guys, right there. You're in the weight room with them, and guys that were 6'7", 6'8", 380 back then, and they probably weren't as in shape as today's player. I don't know, but man, dear. And then some of the linebackers like Ron Porter. Do you remember that name? Yeah, he was in there. And every once in a while, they play basketball or racquetball, good guys, but that was back in the 60s.
Probably didn't enjoy playing basketball with them a whole lot. Plus, they were fairly physical.
Jim Corey had to make the rims 11-foot rim. Yeah. Guess who comes in and lights it up one week? Sam Croge comes in and plays, right?
Doesn't surprise me.
Deadly Sam, Are we ranting, bud?
Yeah, let's rant.
Are we there? Who's batting leadoff here?
Want to start us off, Coach?
All right, I'm going to go. We haven't talked about the Sixers at all. And Embiid's performance last night, the first time in the history of basketball, scoring over 50 points, where he had 59, his personal high, double digits in rebounds, 8 assists, and 8 assists and 7 blocks. No one has ever done it, and I would have thought Mr. Chamberlain's name would have been there. But they still just don't look like a cohesive. I mean, he scored 26 out of their last 27 points in the last quarter. So it's going to be interesting when Harden comes back to see how they play together, because if Harden wants to control that ball in the middle, you lose a lot as far as the other people being involved. So stay tuned, but I'm not particularly as high on him as I would have liked to have been.
All right, I'm going to give you a new metric. O-War. He said, we've heard of O-War, offensive war before. No, it's Chuck's. Oh, what a run. O-War. You got it?
I got it.
Yeah, the season.
And that would make you like the old great racehorse. Man, O-War.
Yeah, we're going to take a break after this podcast, but I can't tell the viewers thank them enough for the crazy good numbers. The texts were fun. I'm going to miss it so much. Oh, my God. You guys, man, working with a son and a great friend each week. Looking forward to it. The banner during the week. The Phillies getting to the playoffs, going to the World Series. The whole thing just in the aggregate was just too good. It was a dream. And this was a part of it, having Bowa call in and the other stuff it did. It was just, oh, what a run, man. I'm going to miss the energy of the podcast. I'm going to look forward to next year's baseball. We have some really good ideas for next year, and we would love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts, ideas, guests, yes, we're going to have more guests next year. Once again, I'm at 609-828-5569. I'll talk baseball. I'll talk any sport, but primarily baseball with you in the off season. And if you have any ideas for the podcast, including coming on the podcast, let's hear from you, okay? Because we're really looking forward to next year. In the meantime, we have a wedding. Good luck to the Wiz this week. And Emily, yep. Great girl, family. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's the best.
Sunday is called Recover.
Yeah. And that's the last kid, so we're done writing checks. Good, bud.
Well, with kind of the way that's wrapped up, I'll pass on the rant rave this week. Just the timing feels like it's a good way to kind of close the out. The last thing I'll just repeat, though, is this will be our last episode for a while, unless we decide to get spontaneous if the Eagles are in the playoffs or something like that.
Always an option.
But yes, but essentially this will barring any Eagles decisions that we make, we'll be back probably February or March, something like that, as baseball starts to get ramped back up with spring training and all that.
And let me just add this: I hope you listeners, we really enjoy bringing this to you folks. Yeah. We hope that you enjoyed it, and it's not the end.
Yeah.
Sure.
And our national champion college is football. Knee jerk.
I'm gonna stay with Georgia.
Yep, I'm Georgia too.
All Georgia. Yeah. Georgia on my mind. That will close us out. Thank you guys so much once again, and I guess we're lending new meaning to. That's a wrap. Shouldn't there be somebody who's like, what's his face did when
you use that when you get your sushi and stuff? That's a wrap. I don't know.
Now, I'll just end it with our website, as always, speaking of sportspod.com. If we do have any major updates, that's probably where we'll post something. Also, our TikTok at Speaking of Sports, Instagram, Twitter. It's all Speaking of Sports. So you can all find us there. Drop a like, look at our videos, follow us for some more information, stuff like that. But other than that,
and
thank you everyone for an awesome season.
We've had some inquiries. Is the podcast for sale? No. Are we looking for a major sponsor? No. There you go. That's a different answer to two questions, huh? All right.
Thank you so much.